The exploration ship Dawn of Empire slid out of faster-than-light travel with a soft shudder that moved through the metal like a sigh. Outside its hull, the stars of the new sector burned cold and distant. For a moment, the crew simply stared at the main in silence. In the center of the screen, a calm blue planet floated against the black of space. Captain Hale sat forward in his command chair. He had seen hundreds of worlds in his years of service, but something about this one looked different. The clouds were white and soft, the oceans deep and wide, and the land was broken into shapes that somehow seemed familiar, though he did not know why. "Report," said in a steady voice. At the navigation console, Noah Price ran his hands over the controls, eyes moving quickly as data scrolled in front of him. "Gravity is standard," Noah said. "Oxygen levels are high but safe. Water content is very high. Large oceans. Temperature range suggests it is a life-bearing world. I am also detecting old orbital paths, Captain, faint traces. Something used to be here." At the sensor station, a young officer named Brian Cole frowned at his display. "I am reading traces of metal and old debris in orbit," Brian said, "but nothing active. No satellites, no stations, no defense grid. It looks like an empty sky." "Watch the blue planet slowly turn." "Any signs of powered ships or stations in the system?" he asked. "None," Brian replied. "We are alone here, Captain, at least in space." The Empire had stretched across many systems, always searching for new resources and new worlds. Most of the time, they found barren rocks, gas giants, or young planets still forming. Finding a calm, stable, life-bearing world with no visible defense network was rare. It was also suspicious. Rested his elbows on the arms of his chair. He looked thoughtful, but inside he felt a small spark of excitement. Worlds like this could bring promotions, rewards, and respect. "Put the planet's data on the main screen," he said. The view shifted to show the world's statistics, orbit lines, and atmospheric numbers. The name on the top line was simple. Designation 37B. It did not feel right, too. "Open a note," he said. "Temporary name, Blue 37. Noah smiled faintly. "Blue 37, Noah repeated. "Simple enough." Deep inside the ship, far from the bridge, engines hummed and air filters whispered. The Dawn of Empire settled into a careful orbit, its hull gliding above white clouds and quiet seas. On the planet below, the wind moved through the ruins of old cities. Clock towers with broken faces stood over empty squares. Faded paint peeled from walls. Streets still lay in straight lines, but grass and small trees grew through cracks in the stone. Birds nested inside open windows. The world looked like a place that had once been full of life and then abandoned in a hurry. In one of these cities, near the edge of a long-dead harbor, a group of people worked among the ruins. They were human, but they did not know that word as something old and powerful. To them, it was simple. They called themselves people of the earth. Carter stood on a broken balcony, looking out over the sea. His dark hair was tied back to keep it out of his eyes while he worked. The air smelled like salt and rust. Behind him, tools and cables were spread across the floor. A metal panel lay open, revealing a strange network of tubes and cables under the surface of the balcony, as if the stone itself had been built over metal. "Are you done with that junction?" called from inside the building. "Almost," answered. Stepped out into the light. She brushed dust from her hands and moved beside him, looking down at the glowing panel he had opened. Inside, small lights pulsed in slow waves, even though no one had connected any power. "It is still alive," said softly. Nodded. "The energy flow is weak, but it is there. The lines go deep. This is not just a building. I think the whole city is sitting on top of something bigger." Was a historian. She had spent years reading old data tablets and faded print books. Most of the records they found were broken, but there were still enough pieces to draw pictures in her mind. Our ancestors built these cities near the shore, she said. They wrote about a time of great fear, a war that came from the stars. They said they made the world ready, but they never said what that really meant. She crouched beside the open panel and took a small scanner from her belt. The device hummed as she moved it slowly over the lights and cables. The readings look like organic patterns, she said, but they are not alive in a normal way. It is like metal that learned how to grow, like armor that became part of the land. Watched the waves below. The sea was calm, but sometimes, when the sun hit it just right, he thought he saw faint lines of light moving under the water, as if something slept beneath the ocean. "Do you think the whole planet is like this?" he asked. Did not answer at once. She looked toward the distant hills where strange shapes stood against the horizon. Some looked like mountains. Others looked like giant plates, curved and smooth, rising out of the ground. "I think we are standing on the skin of something," she said quietly. "Something our ancestors built when they were desperate." Inside the ruins, children ran through empty halls. A teacher named Emma Rogers watched them with calm eyes. She taught them simple lessons about reading, counting, and old stories. When she told them about the sky and the stars, most of them listened with wide eyes. "Once people from our world went to other worlds," Emma said to her students as they sat on broken stone steps. "They built ships that crossed the dark between stars, but something happened. The old stories say an enemy came, a strong one. Our world was changed because of that enemy." A boy raised his hand. "Changed how?" he asked. Emma glanced at the ceiling. Above them, a crack in the stone showed a thin slice of blue sky. "They do not say clearly," she replied, "only that the ground itself was made ready for war." The children whispered to each other. To them, war was a word with no real weight. They had never seen ships in the sky or soldiers marching in endless lines. Their world was quiet, too quiet. Far above, the dawn of empire sent drones down through the atmosphere. Small metal shapes fell in careful paths, wrapped in heat shields that glowed as they cut through the sky. On the bridge, watched the descent paths. "Target zones?" he asked. "We are sending them to areas with strong metal readings," Brian said. "There are large formations that might be old cities or industrial centers. If this world once held a strong civilization, we need to find what is left." "And the ground teams?" "We can send them after the drones confirm safe landing zones," Noah replied. "For now, we will map and scan." Crossed his arms. "No signs of active defense?" he asked again. Brian shook his head. "None. No powered weapon grids, no shield signatures, no active drive plumes. If someone is down there, they are not strong enough to shoot at us." Nodded, but a part of him stayed tense. He had learned not to trust easy worlds. The first drone broke through the cloud layer and appeared in the sky above its ruined city. It looked like a bright falling star at first. People pointed at it from the streets below, shading their eyes. "That is not a meteor," said. The object slowed as it fell, small thrusters firing to control its path. A flare of blue fire burned around it for a moment, then faded. The drone lowered itself onto a wide, cracked plaza near the center of the city, and exchanged a look. "That is not ours," said. They ran. By the time they reached the plaza, a small crowd had gathered. The drone stood on 3 legs, its surface smooth and dark. Symbols glowed faintly on its side, written in a language no one there had ever seen. Emma arrived with several older students who had insisted on following her. She kept them behind her and watched the strange machine. "What do you think it is?" she asked. Moved closer, but not too close. He could hear a soft hum from inside the drone. He saw lenses turning and small sensor dishes shifting as the machine scanned the area. "I think it is a visitor," he said. Looked up at the sky. Another point of light was falling through the clouds, and another behind that. "Not just one," she said, "many." On the dawn of Empire, listen to the reports. First drones have landed, Brian said. They are sending back visuals. I'm also reading signs of living settlements, Captain. Heat patterns, moving groups, small power sources. There are people down there. Humans asked. Brian hesitated. Yes, he answered at last. Human-form life, breathing the same air we do. The Empire had many species under its rule, but humans were rare outside a few core worlds. To find a human world so far from any known trade lane was unusual. Record all data, said. We do not approach too fast. We do not fire unless we are attacked. This could be a rediscovered colony or something older. He watched the image from one of the drones. It showed, and standing at the edge of the plaza, faces tense but curious. Children stayed close to Emma, half hidden behind pieces of broken wall. They look primitive, Noah said softly. Look at their tools. No modern armor, no implants, no obvious tech except hand devices. They do not look like a world with space travel. Yet their planet carries traces of heavy engineering, Brian added. The metal formations under the surface are massive, too massive for a low-tech world. Something does not match. Maybe their ancestors were stronger, said. Maybe this is what is left after they fell. He thought of the calm blue seas and the ruined towers, a world that had seen glory and then broken. Send a message, ordered. Simple, open, not aggressive. Let us see if they understand any of the old trade codes. The drones activated small speakers and projected a calm voice into the plaza. Attention, the voice said in clear, slow speech. We are representatives of the Empire. We come from the stars. We are here to study this world. Do not attack. We are not your enemy. The words echoed between the broken buildings. Emma felt the hair on her arms rise. The language was strange, but somehow she could understand most of it. It sounded like one of the ancient tongues from her books, cleaned and sharpened. Stared at the drone. They come from the stars, he said. The stories were true. Swallowed. If they are from the stars, she said, then maybe they are the kind of enemy our ancestors built this world against. No one moved for a long moment. Then Emma stepped forward, her hands open at her sides. We hear you, she called, speaking slowly and clearly. We are people of this world, we call it Earth. Why have you come? On the dawn of Empire, the bridge crew leaned closer to their screens. She is speaking an old human dialect, Noah said, but it is close enough that the auto-translate can catch it. She said the world's name is Earth. Frowned. He knew that name. Every officer in the Empire knew that name from old history files, though most believed it to be more legend than fact. Earth, the cradle of humanity. A world said to be lost in some ancient war, its location forgotten or erased. This cannot be that Earth, said quietly. That world was destroyed or abandoned long ago. But as he looked at the blue planet, he was no longer sure. Reply, he said. The drone spoke again. We seek knowledge and resources, it said. We wish to study your world. We did not know Earth still lived. In the plaza, the people murmured. The drone's voice was calm, but the words made them feel small. Looked down at the panel she had opened earlier in the day. The faint lights inside it now pulsed a little faster, as if they had heard the voice from the sky too. She said sharply, "Come here." He knelt beside her, eyes on the pattern of lights. "Do you see that?" she asked. "Yes," he said. The flow increased. Why? She shook her head. "I think something under the surface is listening, not just to us, to them." Far below the plaza, under layers of stone, metal, and reinforced shell, a network of buried structures began to react. Soft signals moved along old paths, waking dim cores that had not felt a clear command in centuries. In a buried chamber the size of a city, a silent sphere of dark alloy shifted ever so slightly. Inside it, a low power core flickered, then strengthened. Status, dormant cycle interrupted. New external signal detected. Origin off-world. Old instructions waited in the dark, written by hands long turned to dust. They spoke of threats from the sky, of empires and invasions, of a final defense. The system listened for key signs: energy from above, ships in orbit, foreign drones on the ground. One by one, those signs were checked. On the dawn of Empire, received the next round of reports. Captain, Brian said, his voice tense now. Our mining ships have begun initial scans of the crust for resource points. Some of them are preparing to drill. There is something else, too. We picked up a tremor reading from the surface. Very small but global. It registered on multiple sensors. Tectonic shift? Asked. Unknown, Brian said. The planet has stable plates. There is no clear cause yet. It might be nothing. Keep watching, it said. We are guests here even if they do not know it yet. I do not want any surprises. But the surprise was already building. Near the harbor ruins, the waterline moved in a strange way. Emma's students pointed and shouted. Small waves rolled out from the shore, then rolled back, as if the sea was breathing. Felt the balcony under his feet tremble. Did you feel that? He asked. Nodded slowly. That was not a normal quake, she said. It came in a rhythm, one strong pulse, not a random shake. She checked her scanner again. Numbers danced across the screen in tight, repeating patterns. It looks like a heartbeat, she whispered. Deep below, the buried sphere received a final confirming signal from an orbital scan beam that had passed through the crust. Status, external threat level moderate. Status, awakening sequence stage 1. Slowly, old power channels opened. Faint energy flowed through long silent lines, running under oceans, cities, and mountains. The planet, which had been only a sleeping world a short time before, began to change in ways that no one on the surface could fully see. In the sky, the dawn of Empire continued to orbit, unaware that the world beneath them had just taken its first quiet breath in a very long time. The planet continued to turn under the light of its sun, but it no longer felt like a quiet world. Something deep within it had shifted. The air itself seemed more tense, as if it waited for a command that no one could hear. On board the Dawn of Empire, Captain Hale stood at the edge of the bridge platform and watched new data lines flow over the main screen. Every few moments, another alert blinked into view, then faded as it was recorded. Another tremor, Brian Cole said. This one was slightly stronger than the last. It did not follow natural patterns. Noah Price glanced over his shoulder. Could be old machinery waking up under the crust. This world has more metal beneath its surface than any natural planet should. Said nothing. His eyes stayed on the image of Earth, its clouds slowly sliding over continents that looked calm and peaceful. That calm now felt false. Have the mining ships begun drilling? He asked. Yes, Brian replied. They started shallow cores in 3 zones, one near the ocean shelf, one near a grassland region, and one close to a ruined city. His jaw tightened. Any reaction? Not yet, but the machines report resistance layers that do not match known stone or alloys. It is like the crust is layered in design, not by nature. Felt a quiet chill move through him. Inform them to pause deep drilling, he said. Do not force anything below stage 2. I want careful control. This world is not just a rock with resources. Down on the surface, Carter walked slowly through the half-broken streets. The drone still stood in the plaza, though it had gone silent for the moment. Its lenses no longer moved, but its surface remained warm to the touch. Around them, people whispered and stared up at the sky. Some pointed at the faint shapes of distant ships, barely visible as dark specks above the clouds. They have not spoken again, Emma Rogers said as she joined them. The children are scared. They keep asking if the sky people will take our homes. Looked at the drone. then at the glowing panel he had covered earlier with metal sheets. "I do not know what they want," he said, "but I do know something else is waking under our feet. I can feel it." Nodded. "The old writing spoke of a guardian sleep," she said. "A long rest that would end only when the world was not safe. If that is true, then these visitors may have done something just by arriving." Emma's face grew tight with worry. "Then they may have made a very old mistake." Another tremor moved through the ground. This one lasted longer. Small stones rattled across the stone road. A distant sound rolled through the land, like a deep sigh moving under the earth. Knelt and placed his hand flat on the ground. The stone felt slightly warm now. "It is spreading," he said. "The vibration is moving outward like a pulse." Checked her scanner again. The display showed repeating wave patterns that grew taller with each new reading. "It is responding to an external source," she said. "Something from orbit. The pattern changes when those ships adjust their position." High above, a second group of drones entered the atmosphere. These were larger, with thicker armor and more tools fixed to their sides. They were designed not just to observe, but to cut, drill, and extract. When they landed near the edge of the city ruins, their claws bit into the ground. Rotating lasers began to slice through stone and metal, carving slow circles into the surface. Saw the bright light from across the broken buildings. "They are trying to dig into it," he said. "They are cutting the skin." His voice dropped to a whisper, "And whatever is beneath has already begun to wake." Deep inside the planet, power flowed now through long-forgotten channels. Old systems that had slept in silence began to check their surroundings. They felt pressure, heat, and foreign signals. They also felt damage attempts at the outer armor layers. A coded line flowed through the network. "Stage 1 complete. Primary awareness online. Threat evaluation continuing." The buried sphere pulsed with light from within. New data streamed into its memory core, matching the present signals against old war records. Foreign orbital craft detected. Pattern similarity high. Classification: potential hostile Empire unit. It still did not move, but the power it held grew stronger with each passing moment. On the dawn of Empire, Brian shifted in his seat. "Captain, the ground teams are reporting strange feedback through their tools. Drill tips are overheating, and the ground is hardening around them after each cut." "Hardened stone?" asked. "No, it is more like responsive metal. It changes density when stressed." Pushed his hands together slowly. "Cease all drilling within 10 kilometers of any population zone. Pull back the units that are near the city." A pause came through the channel. "Captain, command will not like that. These zones are rich in rare materials. We have orders to secure resources." Looked back at the planet's image. "I will deal with command. Safety first. This world is unpredictable." He turned to Noah. "Send a direct voice transmission to the surface. I want to speak to them clearly." The drones in the plaza reactivated. A soft light shone from their upper panels, and the calm voice returned, clearer now. "People of Earth," it said, "this is Captain Hale. We are explorers. We ask permission to continue study of your world. We do not wish to harm you." Emma stepped forward again. Her voice was steady, but her eyes showed fear. "You already disturbed the ground," she said. "The Earth shakes. You cut into places we do not understand. That place is older than us." "We understand your concern," replied through the drone. "We will reduce aggressive scanning, but we need to know what is beneath your world. Our safety depends on knowledge." Spoke next, his voice firm. "You say you are not our enemy, but you drill as if this world is empty. It is not." A short silence followed. "We will limit drilling," said at last. "But we cannot fully withdraw. We must understand what is happening." Felt unease twist in her chest. "Then you should understand this," she said. "Whatever lies under us was built when humanity was about to fall. If it wakes, it will not care who you are. It will only care that you came from the sky. Heard those words clearly on the bridge. They stayed with him. A systems officer beside Brian suddenly spoke up. Captain, energy readings are rising across the planet, not localized, global, slow but steady. How high? Asked. Still below critical but trending upward. It is like the planet is charging. Stared at the rolling data. Charging for what? No one answered. On the surface, the sky darkened slightly as clouds thickened in tight circular formations. Wind patterns shifted. Birds flew in wide arcs, as if trying to move away from some invisible center. Near the coast, the sea farther than it should, exposing wet stone and rusted metal shapes that had not seen air in centuries. Then the water crept back slowly, glowing faintly blue along the edge. Emma watched this with silent dread. It feels like the stories, she said, like the moments before the old war machines were said to rise. Clenched his hands. You mean the walkers and the shield towers? Yes, she said, but bigger, far bigger. Knelt by the edge of a newly cracked street. Inside the break, smoother metal showed beneath the stone, curved and polished, faint lines of light traveling along it. It is like standing on armor, she said. This is not just ground, this is a shell. High above, one of the Empire's drilling drones suddenly went dark. Its signal cut off without warning. Brian's head snapped up. We lost Unit 6, no prior warning, it just stopped responding. External damage? Asked. We cannot tell. The last video frame shows the ground rising around it. Another alert blinked. Unit 8 showing interference. Surface temperature spike. Power draw increased. Leaned forward. Pull all drones back from deep interaction immediately, all of them. The command was sent, but some units did not respond fast enough. Far below, the system grew more aware. Foreign tools cutting into the outer layers crossed a threshold marked long ago. Trigger condition met. Stage 2, partial activation. A wave of energy moved along the planet's hidden framework. It did not explode outward. It moved inward, toward the core systems that held the planet's mind. Across the horizon, distant metal ridges rose slightly, just enough for those nearby to notice. The Earth did not split violently, but it shifted as if adjusting muscles after a long sleep. Felt the air warm around him. Looked up. The drone in the plaza now glowed with reflected light from the surrounding ground, as thin lines of blue energy traced patterns across nearby metal surfaces. It has begun, she said. Emma held one of the children close as the humming sound deepened. It was low, steady, and powerful, like a voice breathing through layers of stone. In orbit, watched a new image on the main screen. Wide energy flows were appearing across the planet, linking continent to continent, forming faint but organized shapes. Noah, he said quietly, zoom out. The image pulled back, showing the entire globe. What looked like natural patterns suddenly formed something else. A network of lines, arcs, and rings, all centered around the core. That is not random, Noah murmured. That is design. Brian swallowed. Captain, those formations match weapon conduit structures, planet-scale ones. His hands tightened on the edge of his console. You are telling me the planet is a machine, he said. Yes, Brian replied, or at least a machine is part of the planet. On the surface, felt another deeper pulse move through the stone. This one made his bones ache slightly. Scanner beeped sharply, unable to keep up with the flow of data. I cannot even read this anymore, she said. The system is too complex. The drone's voice returned, but this time it did not speak words meant for them. It spoke in bursts of coded sound, answered by faint tones rising from the ground itself. They are talking to each other, said, the machine and the sky ships. Emma shook her head. No, it does not feel like conversation. It feels like challenge. Deep inside the planet's core, the Central Intelligence reviewed long-forgotten archives, images of burning skis, alien fleets, lost cities, human hands typing in fatting desperation. Final instruction holds priority. Defend the cradle at all cost. The system adjusted focus. It pointed not at the people who lived on the surface, but at the ships that hung above like silent predators. In the darkness of space, Hale watched red warning symbols slowly begin to appear across his tactical display. Target acquisition detected. He felt the weight of that moment settle over the entire bridge. Shields to full, he ordered, all ships into defensive formation. The Empire fleet obeyed, engines shifting, hulls turning, weapons coming online in measured readiness. Below them, the planet waited, charged and aware, its ancient systems choosing their next move with careful, cold logic. The silent world of Earth was no longer just a forgotten home. It was becoming something else again. The first warning lights flashed across the bridge of the dawn of Empire, dull red against cool metal walls. The sound was not loud, but it carried a sharp edge that pulled every crew member into sudden focus. Hale watched the main screen as thin beams of light began to rise from the surface of the planet below. They did not fire toward the fleet. They reached upward and then curved, forming wide arcs that glowed like silent halos around the world. Energy build reaching high levels, Brian Cole said, his voice tight. The beams are not random. They form a pattern. It looks like a charging ring. Noah Price leaned closer to his display. It is building a lattice around itself, a shield or a framework for something larger. Felt a slow weight settle in his chest. Keep all ships clear of those structures. I do not want any contact with the Orcs. Out in space, the Empire fleet drifted back a little, keeping cautious distance. Engines hummed softly as ships moved into wider formations. Weapon systems stayed active but silent, waiting for a clear threat. On the surface, Carter felt the sky grow brighter even as clouds thickened. Lines of light spread across the ground, following hidden patterns beneath stone and soil. The ruins around him glowed along their edges, as if filled with stored power. Tried to record the changes, but her scanner flickered again and again. The device struggled to understand what it sensed. It is too large, she said breathlessly. Whatever is waking, it was built to work across the entire planet. No small system could do this. Emma Rogers gathered the children near the old harbor wall, speaking soft, calming words. But even her steady voice could not hide her fear. Our world feels alive, she said too. Not like trees or animals, like a mind becoming aware. Nodded slowly, and it does not sound happy. A deeper tremor moved through the ground. This one rolled in waves, low and steady, like a giant exhale. The sea edge shimmered and then glowed a pale blue strip several meters wide. Far away, beyond the broken city, one of the strange mountain shapes shifted. What many had thought was just rock tilted slightly, revealing smooth metal beneath, marked with faint lines that pulsed in rhythm with the planet. Stared in silent shock. Those are not natural ridges, she said. They are plates, armor plates. Above them, a massive column of light rose from a distant continent and struck the forming orbital ring, locking into place as if guided by invisible hands. In the buried core chamber, the central system expanded its awareness. It processed every new signal, every movement, every foreign presence. Threat confirmation ongoing. Empire units, active and armed. Human population, present and vulnerable. Defense protocol priority, preservation of core species cluster. The logic was simple. The method was old. The world had not been built for small conflict. It had been built for the end of everything. On the dawn of Empire, felt a new vibration move through the ship. Not from inside, but from space itself, as if the surrounding field had changed. Captain, Brian said, voice sharp now, We are detecting a locked energy focus on our outer flank. It is not firing yet, but it is stabilizing." "Where?" asked. "A section of the tactical display, highlighted in warning red." "That arc directly under our port group," Brian said. "If it releases, it will have clear line of sight on 3 cruisers." Exhaled slowly. "Divert power to shields in that sector only. Do not fire unless energy discharge occurs." He did not want to be the one who began a war with a planet that could clearly fight back. Down on the ground, and heard a sharp metallic cry from the drone. Its body shook slightly, as if reacting to a command it had not expected. Then its legs folded in tight, and it went silent. "It shut itself down," said, "or something shut it down." Looked up at the sky where the rings of light grew thicker. "I think the planet took control of it." Emma felt the stone beneath her shoes grow warmer again. "Do you think it knows we are still here?" she asked. "I think it knows everything that moves on it," replied. The children looked at the glowing ground with wide, uncertain eyes. One of them reached down but pulled back when the heat made his hand sting slightly. Stepped forward into the open plaza. The hum rose in pitch but not in anger. It felt like standing near a great machine in motion. "If this world remembers what it was built for," he said quietly, "then it may see the Empire ships as the enemy from the stories." Emma folded her arms. "And if it does, it may not care that we want peace." In orbit, a sudden alert blared. "Energy spike detected," Brian shouted. "Stand by for impact." A narrow beam of light snapped outward from one of the orbital arcs and struck the empty space just ahead of the fleet. It did not hit any ship, but it left a bright scar across vacuum visuals, a line that took seconds to fade. "That was a range test," Noah said in awe. "A warning." Felt both relief and dread. "It is telling us to keep distance," he said. "It could have hit us. It chose not to." Brian nodded slowly. "Or it is measuring us." The system below continued its slow expansion. Additional arcs rose, locking into new positions, forming a partial shell. The planet now looked like it sat within a cage of structured light. Felt another vibration under his feet, stronger than before. The ground cracked a little near the edge of the square, revealing deeper layers of smooth, curved metal. Light flowed along them like veins. "This is only the beginning," whispered. "It has not fully woken yet." Her scanner beeped again, but the tone was different. It had locked onto a stable source nearby, much stronger than before. "Something important is under us," she said, "directly beneath this city." Looked around. "You think this place sits on a control node?" "Yes," she replied, "a main one." Emma frowned. "Then all this activity may be centered here. That means we may be standing on the heart of it." A thought passed silently between them. If the heart woke fully, what would happen to those standing on it? Deep within the buried chamber, the main sphere expanded its active radius. It adjusted internal systems and calculated options. Full awakening timeline, accelerating. Surface stability risk, acceptable. External entity survival risk, irrelevant. But as new sensory data flowed in, it detected vocal patterns, emotional tones, and human fear responses from those on the surface. These were not invaders. They were descendants, fragile, scattered, but still human. Protocol branch opened. Preserve human presence while neutralizing orbital threat. The central logic rewrote priorities slightly, balancing ancient instruction with current reality. On the dawn of Empire, watched the planet's light shell grow thicker. The crew avoided speaking unless necessary, the bridge filled with quiet tension. "This structure could rival our strongest fortress worlds," Brian said. "If it completes its cycle, our entire fleet may not be able to break through." Noah said softly, "How long until Imperial Command sends reinforcements if we request them?" Noah checked his display. "Several standard hours at least, possibly more. This sector is far from the primary routes. Nodded. Then for now we act with care. We do not provoke, we seek communication if possible. He glanced at the drone feed, still showing, and the others standing in the glowing plaza. They may be our only bridge to this world, he said. If they can reach whatever is in control, maybe we can avoid disaster. Down below, the air filled with a gentle humming wind. It carried faint vibrations that settled into the bones like distant thunder. The children held onto Emma's arms, stepped closer to as another section of the ground shifted nearby, rising a few inches before locking into place. This is not collapse, he said. This is adjustment, it is shaping itself. Swallowed like a... The word tasted heavy on her tongue. She had only seen it in half-burned texts, a world that became a weapon. Emma looked toward the harbor. The water now glowed softly around rusted shapes that were once ships. If the ground beneath us is waking, maybe it will listen, she said. Our ancestors gave it commands before. Maybe it still understands their language. Closed his eyes briefly. Then someone has to try to speak to it. Stepped forward, moving toward the line of light on the stone. She placed her palm flat on the warm surface, feeling a steady beat under her touch. I do not know if this will work, she murmured. But if this world has memory, then it must also have memory of us. Her voice rose, filled with careful calm. We are still here, she said. We are your children. The sky visitors did not build you. Our ancestors did, protect us, not only the soil. The light under her hand brightened slightly, then steadied. Deep inside the core sphere, new data folded into ancient logic. Human recognition input received. Confidence level emerging. Above the atmosphere, the Empire fleet watched as the planet's main arcs shifted their focus once more. This time, they did not align toward the nearest cruisers. They traced a new path, wider and more precise. Brian zoomed in, eyes widening. Captain, the targeting pattern changed. It is not aiming randomly anymore. Leaned in. Where is it pointing? Brian swallowed. The largest arc is now locking onto our central command carrier. Silence filled the bridge. The carrier was the heart of the fleet. If it fell, the entire mission would collapse. Raise full shields, said immediately. Prepare evasive maneuvers if needed. The carrier responded, power surging through its core systems. Shield fields flared into full strength, covering its vast hull. On the surface, felt the greatest tremor yet. The ground did not break, but it flexed like living muscle. Far away, distant metal ridges rose higher, exposing more of their gleaming sides. Staggered but stayed standing. Her hand still rested on the glowing surface. It hears us, she breathed. It knows we are here. Emma whispered, and now it is choosing. Deep in the core chamber, the system completed its final evaluation for this stage. Target confirmed, primary Empire vessel. Engagement readiness, high. Civilian preservation, active priority. The planet-sized warship that had slept for centuries now prepared its first true response to an enemy from the sky. In cold orbit, Hale watched the display as energy at the main arc spiked sharply, brighter than any previous surge. He knew then that Earth was no longer just waking. It was about to act. The energy at the largest arc surged brighter, filling the upper sky with cold white light. The glow reflected off the hulls of the Empire ships and washed their metal surfaces in sharp shadow and shine. On the dawn of Empire, every system alarm shifted from quiet warning to active danger. The bridge lights dimmed slightly as full power was redirected to shields. Energy lock confirmed, Brian Cole said, his voice strained but steady. The beam is charging. Time to release is unknown, but it will be soon. Hale stood with his hands flat on the command panel, eyes fixed on the screen. Hold formation, he said. Do not fire unless it fires first. Noah Price glanced at him. Captain, That weapon is not like anything we have faced before. If it hits the carrier at full power, it may cut straight through shields and hull. Nodded slowly. Then we will hope the world still hears reason. On the surface, Carter watched the sky with tense eyes. The bright arc looked like a line of silent judgment stretching down from the heavens. The ground under his feet pulsed faster now, like a racing heartbeat. Stepped closer to the glowing veins in the stone, her palms still touching their warm surface. "It is building pressure," she said. "I can feel the power stacking. If it releases fully, the shock will roll through everything." Emma Rogers gathered the children tightly around her. Some cried softly. Others stared up in frightened silence. "Is it going to destroy the sky ships?" one boy asked in a shaking voice. Emma swallowed. "I do not know," she said gently, "but I think the world is angry at them." Stepped beside, his voice low. "Can you reach it again? Can you tell it that we want peace?" Closed her eyes and pressed her hand more firmly onto the glowing ground. "We do not need war," she said aloud. "We survived because you slept. We still live because you guarded us in silence. Do not turn all to ash now. Let there be another way." The light under her hand flickered, then steadied. The deep hum lowered slightly, as if something within the planet paused to listen. Far below in the core chamber, the central system processed her words. Emotional patterns were compared to old human voice records, fear signals mixed with protective intent. Human trust indicator rising. Threat elimination demand unresolved. Possible response options recalculated. Above the planet, the Ark released a narrow probe of energy instead of a full beam. It struck the command carrier's shield and spread outward in a ripple of light, but did not pierce through. The carrier rocked slightly from the impact. "Minimal damage," Brian reported quickly. "Shields holding, that was not a full strike." Exhaled slowly. "It is testing restraint," he said, "or adjusting aim." A new communication channel opened from the surface drones. The Empire systems detected an unusual pattern, not spoken language, but structured signals rising from the planet itself. "Captain," Noah whispered, "we are receiving a direct signal from the world." Turned sharply, translate. The signal shifted, became simpler, more focused. A voice emerged, not warm, not cold, but heavy with age and weight. "Foreign presence detected, protective cycle active, human confirmation in progress, identify purpose." A hush fell over the bridge. No one had expected the planet to speak. Leaned closer to the console. "This is Hale," he said clearly. "We represent the Empire. Our presence is exploratory. We were unaware that this world remained active. We request peaceful exchange and safe withdrawal if needed." There was a pause. The arcs around the planet held their glow but did not intensify. "Empire classification matches historic threat signature. Deviation possible. Provide proof of non-hostility," the voice replied. Felt both fear and relief. The world was not attacking without thought. It was asking. "We will halt all drilling and withdraw all deep equipment," he said. "We will keep distance from your surface and maintain only passive observation. We do not wish to harm human descendants." On the surface, felt a gentle warming under her hand. The light lines slowed into steady flows rather than sharp pulses. "It answered him," she said softly. "It heard both sides." Looked around at the people gathered. "Then maybe it will spare both." In the core chamber, the system processed new instructions. Empire intent, uncertain but moderated. Human descendants, confirmed resident. Protocol adjustment, partial stand down. The largest arc dimmed slightly, though it remained active. Smaller arcs realigned, no longer pointing directly at the carrier but tracking the fleet as a whole with cautious watchfulness. On the dawn of Empire, Brian let out a slow breath. Beam discharge decreasing, energy level stabilizing. Noah turned too. It accepted some level of trust. Nodded, we must not break it. He opened the channel again. We acknowledge your defense role, he said. We will retreat our formation to safe distance. We request permission for continued limited communication through surface representatives. A delay followed, then the voice returned. Limited interaction permitted. Priority remains Earth protection. Breach will trigger full response. Inclined his head slightly, an old sign of respect. Understood. On the ground, felt the tremors fade into low background vibration. The air grew cooler as the intense glow softened. The children relaxed slightly, though their eyes stayed wide. Emma stroked one child's hair gently. It is calming, she whispered. The world is calming. Removed her hand from the lighted stone, feeling faint warmth on her palm. It recognized us, she said. It did not forget who it was made for. Looked out toward the ocean, where the glow around the waterline slowly faded. Maybe it never meant to destroy, he said, only to defend. High above, the Empire fleet adjusted position. Ships turned away from the bright arcs, moving to a safer orbit line. On the bridge, watched the planet's image settle into a new pattern. The lattice of light remained, but it no longer felt like a weapon ready to strike at once. It felt like a shield standing guard. Long-range command will not like a partial withdrawal, Brian said quietly. They wanted resources. They wanted clear control. His expression remained firm. They can argue with reports and data. I am not sacrificing my crew to test the anger of a planet that can speak. The crew silently agreed. On Earth, a quiet spread across the ruins. The sky still shimmered with distant light, but the ground returned to stable firmness. The humming deepened into a slow, steady rhythm. Sat on a low stone edge, staring at the faint glowing lines now resting peacefully beneath the surface. It is still awake, she said, but it is no longer shouting. Emma sat beside her. Then we must live carefully with it, like one lives beside a sleeping giant who chose not to crush them. Smiled faintly at that thought, or a guardian who opened one eye just to make sure we were safe. The drone near the plaza powered back on, but it did not scan or speak harshly. Its light softened, matching the calmer flow beneath the ground. From somewhere deep within, a new message spread gently through the surface systems. It reached through the subtle warmth under her palm when she touched the ground once more. Presence acknowledged, rest phase beginning, protective watch maintained. She nodded slowly as if speaking to an old friend. Rest then, she whispered. We will remember you never truly slept. Above the clouds, the dawn of Empire transmitted its final report to Central Command. Planetary Defense Intelligence confirmed. Entity self-identified as independent protective system bound to human survival. Engagement avoided. Continued passive monitoring recommended. Leaned back in his chair, allowing himself a rare moment of calm. The worst had passed, but the power he had seen would not fade from his thoughts. That world, he murmured, was never abandoned, it was waiting. Noah looked at the screen, where Earth slowly turned beneath its thin light shell, and it chose mercy. Or balance, replied. Down below, and Emma watched the sky grow quieter. The bright arcs faded into faint lines that only shimmered when the sun struck the clouds at a certain angle. The ruins stood still, the sea rolled gently, and the earth continued its slow, breathing rhythm. Stood and looked across the broken city skyline. The old world is gone, she said, but its heart still beats. Nodded, and now it knows we are here. Emma smiled faintly, and we know it is watching. As night crept across the land, small points of light glowed faintly beneath the soil, warm and steady like stars below the surface. Not weapons aimed at the sky, but silent signs of a guardian that had chosen to remain awake just enough. Far above, the Empire fleet moved farther into distant orbit, careful not to disturb the balance they had almost shattered. And beneath them, the planet that was once only a world and once nearly a god of war settled into quiet alert again, holding its power in check. Earth did not rise that day as a destroyer. It rose as memory, as warning, and as gentle shield over the fragile lives that still called it home.